Yo, 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 what is up, y'all? My name is Robert Donaldson, and welcome back to another edition of Rob's Best Bets. And in this episode, baby, we are talking about college football week 5. We've got picks, we've got breakdowns, we've got analysis. But before we get into it all, let's go ahead and show our current record in college football, because through 4, technically 5 weeks, if you count week 0, we have been kind of ping-ponging between profitability. We've had a negative week to start out, then positive, then negative, and now we're on this cusp of, we're still up on the year, and it's still a good amount of money to be up, but we would like to make this a little bit more, and I do really love this weekend. Now, I had to temper my expectations last weekend just because, or I guess 2 weekends ago, just because we went a little bit overboard, we got kicked in the mouth. Well, now there's a lot of good games on the board. We're going to be tightening our focus down to just a select few. So when we are kind of going through this slate, it's going to be a little bit more tight. We are going to be wagering less units than a couple weeks back, and I think that's a good strategy moving forward. And before we hop into the picks here, I do want to give a massive shout out to our boys over at Underdog Fantasy, and also the women who work there, of course, all the beautiful people that are working over at Underdog, because this is a great time of year to be on that platform. Whether you're doing daily fantasy or doing the pick'ems, and we'll be posting a lot of those over on my Twitter/X feed at RobDFB. But for those who are wanting to join up, just use my promo code RobDFB, and that'll give you guys a good deposit match bonus when you sign up there. But without further ado, y'all, let's go ahead and jump into these picks. All right, this first game we're going to be taking a peek at is going to be the only non-Saturday college football game that we're betting this week, and that's going to be Virginia Tech taking on Miami. It is at Miami. Virginia Tech has not lived up to expectations, and Miami has far exceeded expectations. And when you do see teams kind of veering off in those directions of, wow, the market might be in the tank for Virginia Tech, and the market couldn't be higher on Miami, it kind of makes it feel like a market play that you just kind of gotta, blind yourself, just say, I don't know anything, and bet it. And from that standpoint, I'm obviously talking about betting Virginia Tech. Do I love it from an X's and O's perspective or even a talent perspective? Absolutely not. I think Virginia Tech has kind of looked like shit, but these lines are the great equalizer when it comes down to it all. And for that reason, I say we go for it here with Virginia Tech getting 19.5 points. Heck, this might even go up, as bets come in on Miami, but I really do think this is one of those plays that you just gotta, bite down on your tongue and let it ride. The second bet we're going to be taking a look at here is going to be a noon kick on Eastern Standard Time, and it's between Northern Illinois and NC State. And listen, NC State has beaten me down a couple different times this year. Actually, only one time, and that one time was an annoying one time against Louisiana Tech. And Northern Illinois, we faded them last weekend against Buffalo. Obviously, coming off that big Notre Dame win, I just felt like, again, the market was very high on Northern Illinois, and I don't know if this is a top 100 team in all the country, if we're being honest. And from that standpoint, NC State, CJ Bailey, they've got another couple reps under his belt for a couple games here, and I do think that makes a world of difference. We're not having to lay a full touchdown, and I think that's where we're kind of getting a little bit of value here with NC State. So let's go ahead and bet the Wolf Pack at -6. Don't love it, but again, I do feel like this is probably a good buy low spot on the Wolf Pack here. All right, next up, we are taking a look at an obscure matchup for some, but obviously this is our team. This is the team we've been riding. This is the team I made a video on, and yeah, they did kind of let us down a couple weeks back against Arizona State, but I do think Texas State is due for a bounce back here against Sam Houston State, and this is kind of a neutral site, quote-unquote, game. It's not on Sam Houston's campus, and for that reason, I do feel like Texas State might have an edge fan-wise. I also feel like they have the clear edge talent-wise, despite us being fans of Sam Houston State. I mean, heck, week 1, we were on their money line for some good payouts, but in this matchup, I am all over the Bobcats here, so give me the Bobcats laying the 8 points for our third play of week 5. All right, this next game we're taking a peek at is going to be Wisconsin, traveling it out to USC, and obviously this is a Rose Bowl type matchup, but this could not be further apart from a Rose Bowl type matchup when you look at Wisconsin. And again, this is a team that we highlighted, or I guess low-lighted, in the preseason preview of the Big Ten. Just was so out on Wisconsin and their dairy raid and Luke Fickell in general, and they have been even worse than expected. And I get it. They lost their quarterback, Tyler Van Dyke, and that's obviously a big one as well. But when you are looking at Wisconsin, even if they had Van Dyke, I really don't believe that they would be in this ball game regardless. So let's go ahead and lay the 15.5 points with USC, and let's lay it confidently here because I do think this is going to be a beatdown. All right, next up, we are taking a look at a very obscure matchup, and the reason why I say very obscure is there's not a lot of wins between these teams, if any, and we're looking at UMass taking on Miami of Ohio, and you guys know I'm kind of bullish on Miami of Ohio. They've had a really tough stretch here of Cincinnati and Notre Dame and back-to-back weeks, and for that reason, I do think, one, they are battle-tested. Two, I do think that they have a lot of pent-up potential that they definitely need to let loose on a team, and I think UMass is just one of the worst teams in all of college football, along with Kent State, and for that reason, 17.5, although it kind of jumps out as whoa, that's a weird line, I would lay more than this. I would lay this all the way up to 20.5, so let's go ahead and take Miami of Ohio. Let's bet them confidently, and let's make some money on these boys. All right, next up, we have a very, very fun G5 matchup here between Liberty and App State, and although this isn't the App State teams of years past, this is kind of a down year under Sean Clark, this is still a very, very tough environment, and Liberty, to me, kind of seems pretty fraudulent. And I know there's a lot of Liberty supporters out there who think they're the real deal. I do not. I think last year's team was a little bit better, and this year's team is kind of fallen off from that. And for that reason, when you're getting 3.5 points and you're getting App State at home, they haven't lost back-to-back home games in over a decade now. And man, I'm willing to ride this on the money line. I say we just take the points though and feel confident about it. And let's go ahead, App State. Let's make some money, baby. All right, next up, we are taking a look at a matchup between Arkansas and Texas A&M, and this is not in College Station. This is at Jerry's World in Dallas, and for that reason, I do feel like that neutralizes a lot of the home field advantage that Texas A&M would have been garnering. And on top of that, man, you guys, again, this is another team that we've been making money on. Arkansas, they've been printing, whether it was against Oklahoma State and covering that game, or going into Auburn and absolutely embarrassing them with their defense. And also even Taylor Green did not look that impressive last week. And I think part of that is because Auburn does have a pretty strong defense. But man, I'm fully on board the Taylor Green wagon, and I say we ride Arkansas here getting the 4 points on a neutral site. So let's go ahead, let's bet them, and let's make some money. All right, this next game is a very fun game for those who are kind of in the know, and that's going to be UNC taking on Duke at Duke. And this is a battle of a former head coach who fired his assistant coach. We kind of saw this last week in Norman with Oklahoma and Tennessee, and Josh Heupel going back in there and wrecking shop against his former squad. But when you are looking at this matchup and you're looking at Mac Brown taking on Manny Diaz, this is a bitter rivalry between the coaches. When Mac Brown fired Manny Diaz at Texas, it was not amicable. It was not a good time. They've had a matchup since, and there was a non-handshake that was rejected by Manny Diaz. And after last week and UNC kind of getting embarrassed, and his players really rallying around Mac Brown to say, hey, do not retire. We messed up. We got you. I feel like UNC is going to come to play for their head coach in this matchup. And so let's go ahead. Let's take the 2.5 points here with North Carolina. I don't mind a money line bet here either, but I say again, we just take those points and feel confident with it. All right, in this next matchup, we are taking a look at the game of the week between Georgia and Alabama. Obviously, I mean, you look at this card or this slate for college football on Saturday, and it's beautiful. There are great games at every single level of the sport, but when you are looking at this game, this is the pinnacle, right? You got two great teams, arguably two of the best teams in all of college football, along with Texas, and man, there's a lot going on here. Obviously, SEC rematch. These two teams have been spearheading the SEC for the last 5, 6, 7 years. I can't remember how far back it goes, but I do feel like this is going to be a great matchup. And do I feel strongly either way? I'm going to be completely honest and say no. But if I didn't include this bet on here, it'd be lying to you guys, because I'm going to be watching it, obviously, and I'm going to want to have a little bit of a stake on this. And so I do like Alabama. I think they are the better team. I'm not sold on Carson Beck. I think he's a one-hitch, one-read, throw-it type guy who's playing within a great offense, and that's all he is. And I do feel like Alabama is going to have the ability to disrupt that more so than any other team that Carson Beck has played this year. And for that reason, when you're getting points at home with a team that won last year's matchup, you don't have to sell me any further on Alabama. Let's go ahead and print some money here with the boys. All right, for our final bet of Week 5, and this is by far my favorite bet of Week 5, we are taking a look at a matchup between Middle Tennessee State and Memphis. And Memphis got embarrassed last week. They were spearheading the G5, playoff berth, if you will, after their win at Florida State, and they may have been celebrating too hard because they went over to Navy and they got their ass kicked. It was a 14-point game at the end, but man, it felt like a 28, 21-point type game throughout the entire way. And, kudos to Navy. That's a hard offense to kind of stop stylistically, and Memphis has kind of held their heads on, hey, we can definitely put up points against anybody, and yeah, they can put up points against anybody, but clearly they can also be scored on to a high degree as well. And when you are looking at this matchup, laying 25.5 points, I do feel like this is one of those get-back spots where they're just going to unleash that pent-up aggression against Middle Tennessee State, who are arguably, I think, is one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in all of college football. So let's go ahead and lay that massive number here for a sizable bet and feel really confident and ending Week 5 on a high note. All that being said, y'all, I really want to appreciate you guys for checking out today's video. And if you do want to show some love, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment down below, and if you can, definitely share it, because I do feel like that's what kind of gets the ball rolling on these types of videos, and really appreciate you guys' support. I'll try to upload consistently every single week, but I do get exhausted during the weekdays because of my actual day job, and on top of that, I do a lot of other things in terms of shows and whatnot, and the handicapping process itself takes out quite a bit of time. And so from that standpoint, I still really appreciate it, guys. I'm going to try my best to continue to produce content, and until next time, I will see you in a future video. Take it easy.